Hello, YouTubers. How are you today? I hope you're doing okay. Today, I'd like to address the question of where did Cain get his wife? Now, this is a question that has been asked thousands of times over the decades by two types of people. First, by atheists and agnostics, many of whom think they have found a gotcha kind of question. And the second kind of people are those who are not well versed in the Bible and are not aware of all the information that is needed to come up with a plausible explanation. Is there to be found in the Bible. Many of those who ask this question seem to assume that at one time there were only 4 people in the world, those being Adam, Eve, Cain, and Abel. Now, this may or may not be true, for the Bible does tell us that Adam had other sons and daughters whose names were not mentioned in the Bible. That's in Genesis 5:7. However, the Bible doesn't tell us when Adam had them. Regardless of that fact, it isn't really relevant as to when that happened, or even if there were only those 4 people on the earth at the time. It still doesn't prevent the plausible explanation from being true. And here's why. The key to this whole thing is the fact that people in Adam's time lived for long periods of time. Adam lived to be over 900 years old. So did many of his descendants. Not only that, the Bible also tells us that Adam was 130 years old when he had Seth. That's in Genesis 5:3. So what does that tell us? That tells us that people at the age of 130 could bear children. And why not? If they could live to be over 900, then 130 years wouldn't even be a third of their lives. A third of our normal lives would be in the 20s. People in their 20s have children all the time. We are not told how old Cain was when he took a wife. So given just these few clues, it's pretty easy to see what probably happened. Cain, after he had slain Abel, was banished from the community and was given a life of being a vagabond. He probably spent a great deal of time just living off the land and wandering around in the world away from society, for he was afraid that someone would take revenge for his killing of Abel. Now, the very fact that God put a mark on Cain to warn anybody from taking revenge indicates that at the time there were already others in the world. So it is very possible that Cain could have wandered around the earth for over, say, 150 years or so, avoiding contact with anybody. So if this was the case, what was going on for over 150 years back home? Adam and Eve were still cranking out kids, and their kids were cranking out kids, and their kids' were cranking out kids. And in a period of over 150 years, at least 6 generations of people could have come into the world. And eventually, Cain may have had an accident of some kind or something and was tended to by someone who came across him. And there, Cain could have come into contact with one of those of Adam's descendants and chose to take her for a wife. So in all likelihood, Cain married one of Adam's descendants. It could have been a granddaughter, a great-granddaughter, a great-great-granddaughter, or one of many cousins or nieces of Adam's descendants. So even though the Bible doesn't tell us much about Cain's life, similar kinds of scenarios to the one I suggested are very plausible and most likely what occurred in light of the small amount of information that we are given from the Bible. Thank you for listening, and until the next time, Lord willing, there is a next time, have a good week.